Operating cybernetics.
Talk to him now.
AT, Andre.
Come on, Dre.
Yep. Trippin with Let's Go. Woo! Trippin with Theobold.
What's your name?
Theo so bold.
Yeah.
Driggity. Let's go. Trippin with Theobold. Trippin.
What are we doing?
Trippin with Theobold.
Come on, Dre.
See, mic check 1 2. Holla if you hear me. Hey, what's going on, y'all? And welcome to the next episode of Trippin with Theobold. I'm your host, Andre Theobold. Welcome to the show. You know how we do over here in Trippin with Theobold land. Before we go any further, make sure you guys hit that like button and hit that subscribe button. Tell a friend to tell a friend and do all that fun internet stuff like the old people say. 1 T at the end, internet. All right, so as you guys know how we do over here in Trippin with Theobold land, we got to get started with the tongue twisties, right? Yeah, we gotta get the mouth warmed up. Pause. All right, so here we go, and we do this to minimize the trippage. We do this so there'll be less trippage in the show. But without further ado, today's tongue twisties is brought to you by the letter T. So let's get with it. Number 1. Trinity Trickett told 2 twins to taste the terrifically tempting tart. Tart. That sounds like an old, like 1912, 1800. Okay, let me stop messing around. Trinity Trickett told 2 twins to taste the terrifically tempting tart. This reminds me of back when I was in my engineering days. We had a TA who was from India, I believe, and he pronounced the hell out of all of his T's, man. He'd be like, you take the nan bucket and then you take it. Oh, let me stop messing around. But not real cool dude. But let me stop messing around. Okay, last time for this one. Trinity Trickett told 2 twins to taste the terrifically tempting tart. Number 2, here we go. Tom Turkey took 10 turtles to town. Tom Turkey took 10 turtles to town. One more again. Tom Turkey took 10 turtles to town. And last but not least, here we go. Trina Tweedy tripped 2 twittering twins under a twiggy tree. Man, what the hell does this even mean? Trina Tweedy tripped 2 twittering twins under a twiggy tree. Yeah, man, Trina kind of sounds like a bitch. Okay. Trina Tweedy tripped 2 twittering twins under a twiggy tree. And yay, the tongue twisters are done. Got those out the way. Now we can move on to next portion of the show. Real quick, newsflash, hot on the press. This is a little merch / logo design update. So let me pull this up so I can show you guys where I'm at. So here we go. So when I first started, you know, coming up with a logo design. Right now, I'm working with a designer right now on this. But when I was working on this design, I was just kind of brainstorming, trying to come up with, you know, what would be a good logo for AT, right? So I really like this logo right here, but this is someone else's, or it was a template, but it was someone else's. But this is like what I really like, man, because it's simple, it's unique, you know, like you don't have 2, like I like it when the 2 letters combine into one, right? But anyways, can't use this because it's probably copyrighted. But here's like a little journey down my path of coming up with logos. So when I wrote the requirements for the person that's designing the logo, I said I wanted like the letter A and the letter T, and I want it combined into one, and I wanted a microphone somehow worked into that, and I wanted the A and the T to be combined. And this is what they first came up with. I was like, yeah, nah, bro. Nah, this looks like it looks like a shower head almost, and that A looks like a O. So I was like, yeah, now I'm not messing with that. Then he gave me this one. I'm not sure if it's a he or a she, but then they gave me this one with the cables, right? So you kind of see the A and you see the T in there, but that looks too techie, right? It looks like I'm a DJ or some shit, or not, but not a comedian, right? So, then they came up with this one. This looks too simple, looks too podcasty. So, and like I said, this logo, I want to be able to put this on a hoodie, a hat, a shirt, and rock this joint like it's a baseball team hat, So went through that one. I was like, yeah, nah, not that one. Then I kind of drew some stuff out, and then this is where we're at now. So yeah, so I like all of these. So the top one, let's call this one design 1. Let's call the second one design 2. And let's call the bottom one here design 3. So it's only 3 designs, but the way they send it to me, it's like 2 by 2. So I really like all of them, I like the top one because it's all connected. The bottom one, I like the second one because that T looked kind of like a mic clip, so I could probably put a microphone in there some kind of way, that would be dope, and the bottom one, the third one, I'm not too fond of that one, but I mean, you never know if the microphone kind of protrudes up and cuts into the A, it might work. But I have until tomorrow, I think, to get back to the person to let them know where I want to go with this. But here's what I want to do, right? Like that microphone in the middle right there, if I could somehow take that and have him slide the mic further in to the mic clip, that might be part of the T. Like that's what I want in the middle, some kind of way. But it's a start, It's a start. We're like an NFL franchise. We're like, come on, Dre. We're like a professional sports team franchise, right? That has like a logo where you start off with one and then you just move on in time, right? Like for example, you got the Buffalo Bills logo, right? The old logo was the standing buffalo. Now it's the charging buffalo, right? So logos evolve. So this is a good start, I think. What else do we have? Oh yeah, and then I ordered the first iteration, Mark 1 of my Trippin with Theobold hoodie, the official podcast hoodie. This is what it looks like. It's on its way over here. I should get it in the next week or so. But real simple. Got my Trippin with Theobold logo on the front, and then on the back, bam. So people see what I rep. So this is me. All right. So enough of that for now. Let's go ahead and get into the topic at hand. That kind of threw me off. I tried to drag my hoodie and it did a copy and it tried to do something else. Okay, let's get back onto the topics on today's topic at hand. Today's topic at hand is 688. So since this is so I'm giving it away. Since this is episode 126, any podcast number that I do that ends in a 6 or an 8 is a dedicated 6888 centric episode. So as you guys know, I'm reading Miss Charity Adams' book, One Woman's Army. She was the commanding officer of the 6888, and I feel like it's best to start with her to get her outlook on what was kind of going on during that time and her experience. So, when I read other books, like I can read it through her lens, because like I said, my grandma served under Major Adams, And I got a lot of questions, like I want to know what my grandma did when she was in the 6 888. I want to know I'm not sure if they're gonna, like, there's not going to be any direct references to my grandma, but you never know. There might be some behaviors, or there might be a description of some behavior of a member or a soldier that fits my grandma, right? So I'm just, like I said, I'm just playing around with ideas. I'm trying to read and learn for the most part. So right now I am on July 13th through July 19th, 1942. And I gotta ask my mom if my grandma read this book, because my grandma read a lot, man. Like, she would read all those romance novels, man. And I want to know if my grandma read this book, because if she read this, I want to know, like, what her response was, if she remembers anything from it, or if she remembers specific things and it's like, yeah, nah, it didn't go down that way. But it still kind of bothers me why the majority of members never really sought out the other members that they served with, like, because you gotta think, they were together for like 3 to 4 years, right? Like, their time that they served overseas was probably like about a year, but before then they had to do training and everything else. So it's just real interesting to me how, like, you don't really hear about stories of other 6 888 members trying to seek each other out, like, part of me is thinking, okay, well, what if that was due to, like, technology, but even me now, right? Like, when I went to football camp, all the football camps I went to, I still remember like 1 or 2 names of people that I went to camp with, and it's only for like a week, right? Like, I remember from my football camp, I remember one of the assistant coaches named Lucky. I remember he talked like a lot of trash in practice. And then I remember this other guy, Montgomery. It was this white boy that was like my size, because we were like the smallest, players there. We were like really undersized. And then it was my man Tank, who was a running back. He would just run people over in practice. So I remember some of those names, but it's like weird. Like, I was only with them for a week, but I'm not going to the end of the earth to search them out, but I know they exist. And same thing with like me, and like when I was in like grade school, like I know a lot of people that I'm curious to see where they at, and I pull up Facebook to try to see if I can't find 1 or 2 classmates. But anyways, while I was reading this chapter, it kind of made me think about Kent Blue Ridge a little bit, because, she had to gather all these like weird items to pack with her. She had to like get these special clothes and she had to get things that she wasn't accustomed to like wearing. I think she said she had to get some like shorts, like I forgot the kind of shorts, but she had to get a specific kind of like shorts, and then a specific pair of pants. And it's like, back then they probably wore dresses a lot and stuff, so I know this kind of makes me think about camp, when I had to go get all these like weird things that I wasn't used to having. Like, for example, a canteen. I had to get a canteen when I went on my horsebacking outpost. So and then there was like, that long ride to get to where one of their destinations were, to actually start to one of the initial training grounds. So that made me kind of think about camp a little bit. I think I find interesting in her book, or about what she said, was she said that, when they were taking the train, I believe from Ohio to Iowa, when they were in that train car, they basically integrated. They were all mixed up. It was different people of different women of different like races and colors, really just black and white, different shades of black and white. And they said that they talked about families, career, and patriotism. So that was huge. Like, they really had she had a lot of pride in her country, even though this is like hardcore like Jim Crow era, you know, she still had patriotism, you know. So that was interesting to me. Um, but then also I wonder too, you know, I wonder if they had like moles amongst them, you know, like what if like some of these the white soldiers or the white cadets that were on their way to go to this training ground, like what if they were kind of put there to just get intel on what the blacks were thinking, you know, and like how the blacks felt, you know. That's something that crossed my mind while I was reading this chapter. Um and then the thing that was weird was when I was reading it was like they let them stay integrated up to a certain point, but then once they got to their barracks, all of a sudden it was segregation, you know? It was like they were in line thinking that, hey, we're all one unit, we're all one family or whatever. And then it was, hey, blacks go over here, right? And to me, I think that was done intentionally. I think that they wanted to, I think personally, they had them integrate with the whites and the blacks. So the whites basically had different assignments to where they were just gathering intel on what the blacks were thinking or what the sentiment was amongst the black members or the black soldiers, you know. Um, Another thing that was interesting too that kind of made me think about Camp Blue Ridge was like their first meal when they went to the mess hall. You know, when I remember my first time when I got off the bus after that long ride from Maryland to Virginia. It was like a 5 hour ride. 5 hours when you're a kid is a long time, you know. But I remember when we got off, you know, of the bus, we had to go into the mess hall and then we ate. But the thing that was like a little different in her case was basically she was saying that it was like they were like how should I put it? It was like a celebrity status. You know, they had like newspapers, they had journalists coming up to them, asking them questions, taking photos while they eat, you know, and they were like the talk of the town, you know. And the one thing she said that was kind of interesting too, was that, you know, it was about this was like it was weird it was weird for her to see herself and other blacks in the newspaper on the front page that weren't associated with crime. You know what I'm saying? So that was interesting. That just made me kind of think a little bit, you know. Um, so really it was like they weren't really praising blacks for anything big back then, you know. It was kind of like if you made the paper, you were doing some bullshit, you know. So that was interesting how they just her take on it, you know. And then the one thing she also said too, which led me to believe that, or which leads me to believe that um there were moles amongst them, was that she said everything was documented. Like everything they did from the time they got onto like the the trucks to get to the train, everything was documented, you know. So the integration slash segregation flip switch wasn't on accident. That wasn't something that was just happens. I think they really planned that. That was something where they were I think they were doing a mental exercise to see how the soldiers or how the people would react, you know? And this kind of makes me think about my grandma, right? And how my grandma was, right? Because when I was young, my grandma told me something very um yeah, my grandma was basically trying to get me on code, you know? So basically I remember when I think I was maybe like 9. I was young, but I remember this day vividly. So in my neighborhood, I grew up in a well in a so I grew up in a safe neighborhood, right? It was a suburb. Um Most of my neighbors were white. There were like some brown neighbors, you know, and there was like one other black family like halfway around the block. And when you're 9, 8 years old, going halfway around the block is a big deal. Like that's like long distance, you know? But I remember my one neighbor, shout out to Bobby Steen. Bobby was one of my childhood friends, white dude, white boy, you know. And we just go outside and play. Like we go outside, we play golf in the backyard, or he had a T-ball set. We play T-ball in his backyard, or we go and shoot hoops in his front yard. Like he was really into sports, you know. And I remember one day I went to go play with Bobby, you know. I went outside to go play with Bobby, and my grandma stopped me dead in my tracks. She's like, Andre, come here, I gotta sit down, I gotta talk to you. All right. And whenever my grandma says she has to talk to me, I know she about to say something real. So we go up in the kitchen and she sits me down and she's like, you don't play with any other boys in the neighborhood? You don't play with any other, what did she say? She said, you don't play with any other black boys in the neighborhood? I'm like, yeah, Joseph lives like halfway around the block, and that's like a long way around the block. I'll get in trouble if I go that far, you know? So I'm like, yo, I play with who I play with, you know? She was like, she said, okay, well, I'm gonna tell you right now, you know, when you get older, you need to start looking for some black friends to hang with, you know? Because, you know, there's nothing wrong with being friends with everybody, but just make sure you got your own, you know? And basically she was telling me, you know, like, hey, get on code, you know what I'm saying? Because, you know, when you get older, you're going to see that things are going to change. Because when I was young, I didn't see any of that. Like, I didn't really, I knew Bobby was white. I knew I was black, but I didn't like really think nothing of it. But as I got older, it's like, yeah, it's like you don't want to like segregate yourself, but you have to realize that culturally and socially there are differences, you know, and I'm not going to get into all that right now, but hearing Major Adams talk about, you know, how first when they were on the train, they were all mixed up races on the train, white women, black women integrated on the train, talking about families, careers, and patriotism. And then all of a sudden, you know, the powers that be said, hey, blacks go over here, whites are over there. You know, it kind of like made me think about that talk that my grandma gave me, you know? And I don't think she was saying that for me to isolate myself or to segregate myself, but she was just telling me, look, when you get older, you're going to see that the world is different, you know? And the powers that be that are above control that shit, you know? So I thought that was pretty interesting. So, anywho, I'm going to continue my readings of One Woman's Army. Very fascinating book. I suggest you guys go check it out. But yeah, before I go any further, make sure you guys hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, tell a friend to tell a friend, and do all that fun internet stuff like the old people say. So, yeah, so that pretty much concludes today's episode. If you have any comments or questions, make sure you guys, put them in the chat, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. If you want to troll me, you know, I'm not sure how I'm going to respond, but you can go ahead. I don't block any comments. And also, let me know in the comment section which logo you guys prefer, right? For the AT logo. It's either one at the top, 2 at the bottom, or 3 at the bottom right there. Like I said, there's only 3 logos. There's not 4. But anywho, that concludes today's episode. And without further ado, I'm out of here, folks. Peace. Yep. Trippin' with Theobold.
Let's go.
Caliente.
Trippin'. Yep. Trippin'.
Trippin'. Trippin' with Theobold.
Trippin' with Theobold.